Hey, what's up? Yeah, we're back. So please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings in order that we might be on the same note here. In the previous part, however, just to give a small summary, I was speaking about just the travesty and the sorrow of the way that our men, and by our men I mean black men, right, treat black women. And I was telling you guys a story of back in the day of this guy that even though I wasn't attracted to him, I didn't have a crush or feelings for him. More than likely not even because I wasn't physically attracted, but because he was cold, he was mean. So because he was mean, why in the world would I want to go in and ravage my heart by liking a guy that is so cold towards me? So maybe if he was fresh and kind, I might have actually had a crush. I don't know. But despite not having a crush on him, I found myself curious, wondering, what is it about this one new girl that started working for the company that made him treat her better than the way that he was treating the rest of us black girls in the office? Because he had, like I said, a very mean and aloof disposition. I then came to conclude that that girl, the woman that he ultimately treated, or at least ended up with, like to a point of, like I said, he used to parade her all over the show, making it clear that this is the one that I've chosen out of all of you. I came to the conviction, but not at that immediate moment, years down the line, because the whole situation with this guy was surfaced to my memory last night when I was busy pining over why have I just been left to languish, get old, get a geriatric room with no marriage, and so why are black men so terrible? Right? Yeah, me in that mopey state. I remember that story and what I used to think at the time and what I now have concluded all these years down the line. I then went on right ahead to say in my exposition that that woman must have settled, and this is the reason why I'm saying she must have settled. It's because, you know, character is uniform. Character is uniform in the sense that if you are a sweet guy, you're just gonna be sweet, but if you're a mean guy, you're going to be mean. Like, that's just who you are. I have come to observe that this is generally a thing, and I will explain to you why I say that. There was this one guy that was pursuing me when I was working at MTN, right? I, for the life of me, did not understand why he was pursuing me, because we used to work closely on projects together. He was like a segment manager, I was a project manager, and he was the segment manager on my project, right? And this dude, I thought he wanted nothing to do with me. I thought he didn't like me. He was an incredible chauvinist and a misogynist, to a point where sometimes he would say, like, oh my goodness, like, what is this? You're throwing your toys out the cot, must be that time of the month. Like, I could have totally taken him to HR for that, but you know, we're not trying to get people to lose their jobs here. He was a misogynist and an angbora, and sometimes he would just skip my meetings, not come, despite me, you know, despite it being a high priority, and also everybody just kind of throwing their toys out the cart about the lack of delivery in this particular area. So for me, it was like, dude, like, just work with me, like another project, what's going on? He also used to interject a lot. Whenever I was speaking, I was the project manager, and when I was speaking, he would just kind of throw himself in there. So now, and I remember even telling my colleagues, like my female colleague, the one that I was very close with, yeah, because they say his name was Jajaja. I was like, my goodness, Jajaja, every time I keep with this, and on top of that, he doesn't do his deliverables on time, and his boss keeps protecting him, and I keep protecting him. I don't know what's going on. Got to that mindset with this Jajaja guy. Imagine my life and my future is going to be terrible working with this guy, but I guess it is what it is. In South Africa, you can't just fire a person without giving them 10,000 warnings. Plus, his boss seems to be, you know, easily cajoled and smooth talked by this guy to a point where really there is no escalating this matter. So this is my life. I guess I gotta drag my body into the office every day to work with this gangster. I like, you know, I get no choice. It is what it is. I'll just take it in my stride. And then next thing, he pursued me. I was like, how under heaven do you expect me to feel safe in your, like, arms as a girlfriend, dude, as your girlfriend, when you treat me like this in the office? You are a misogynist, you're chauvinistic, you keep on highlighting my PMS as the issue for why it is that I'm so upset that you're not doing your deliverables on your particular end of the deal with this project. How you even can justify saying such things in an email is beyond me. I do not understand. But you're pursuing me? How are you gonna treat me well? Like, how under heaven are you gonna treat me well as a girlfriend? Are you gonna switch on gentleman in boyfriend mode if I date you? Are you gonna switch on gentleman? Because you certainly have no such man dwelling inside your members as a colleague. You cannot for the life of me treat me well collegially. So I mean, like, how am I gonna go risk myself in being in a relationship with such a verbally abusive man? You're gonna tell me when I'm pregnant with your baby that my stretch marks make me look like a zebra? You're the kind of guy that's probably gonna call me fat because I just gave birth to your baby girl. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not going to be with you. Not that I'm attracted to you, but even if you had the handsomeness of Brad Pitt, I would still reject you because you cannot treat me well as your colleague. I found him brazen and bold to pursue me. I really did. And he wasn't the only one to do such a thing as that. So character is uniform, you guys. It is uniform. And these guys, in their misogyny, sometimes are brave enough to go and ask you out on a date after treating you like trash in some other capacity. That's the thing about a misogynist. They want their bread buttered on both sides because they're heterosexual. They've got feelings for women and they also desire to, continue having sex in life. They want them therefore around, but just to pleasure their needs and to fulfill their goals in that regard. But to actually be doting husbands, to actually be protective, basically walk in your demeanor as what it is that God set you apart to be in the life of a woman, that they cannot do. So if you can be mean to one conglomerate of women, one batch of women, if you have a general way about treating women in your environment, you are not about to go and be different to the one that you make a girlfriend or a wife. You are not. You are not going to be different. Character is uniform. Only God is immutable. We as human beings, however, are mutable. But even within the mutability that we walk in, we tend to have set characters. Do you understand? We tend to have set personalities as people, and your set personality is going to dictate, it's going to enforce how you act with other people around you for the rest of your life. You are going to treat people. The only one that can change you and your character that is violently flawed is the one who can make out of you a new creation, Jesus, right? But in the absence of redemption, a change of personality is very rarely encountered by people, which is why I think therapy is just a waste of time. Why couples who keep on going for couples therapy, counseling and all that jazz nonetheless end up divorced is because people just keep on defaulting to whatever it is that is their baseline character. So if you are not just naturally a very sweet, loving guy, like you're just sweet, everybody likes you in the office, and really frankly you're jocose and I've got the comedic flair of Trevor Noah. If you're not that girl or that guy, sorry, you're not gonna suddenly be jocose because you really desperately, by willpower, want to get it done. I have experienced uniformity of character from a myriad of human beings in my life for me to conclude that in the absence of transformation by the Holy Spirit, people stay generally the same all throughout their lives. My ex-boyfriend as well. I was able to stay with him for 5 years. Please, we can't throw out the baby with the bathwater here. I was able to stay with him for an entire 5 years because his character was uniform. He was just generally the same dude. He was this jocose, easygoing, light-hearted guy that was not mood swingy. He wouldn't annoy you. He wouldn't today, be a ray of sunshine and then tomorrow he doesn't want to talk. He did not have fluctuations. He was sweet. He was kind. He was the dude who would drop joke bombs in the room and laugh. He was the one that didn't take himself too seriously, and that's what I loved about him. And so therefore, I never was constantly just irritated with the way that so you're in your moods again, you're in that state again, you're in this again. But a dude that's trying too hard, like a man that is trying to pursue you and put forward his best foot that is not necessarily the foot that he naturally glides in second nature, that man is going to annoy you with mood swings in the future. And I indeed dated yet another dude. The first ever guy I dated as a Christian, and it was like a hard lesson. I thought he was a child of the living God. He had a mean streak. He was inherently just a mean guy. But with me, he tried to put his best foot forward, be kind, lighthearted. But one day, I caught him off guard where he was working on his computer. I used to visit him in his apartment. One of the biggest reasons why God also broke us up, because there was just too many passions there. I spent a lot of time with him alone to a point where I nearly fell into sexual sin. But anyway, that didn't happen. However, though, I remember the one time when I was at his apartment and I was chilling, kosofeng, and he was doing something, right? He had some deadline to meet in the office, right? Some email that just came through and he had to work on something real quick on his computer, and I was just sitting on the couch doing my own thing, and I said something right to him. I tried to speak to him while he was in that mode, and his response to me was basically, shut up, whore, I'm busy. No, not in a, babe, please give me a minute, I really need to concentrate. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry for disturbing you. That I could have taken in my stride. But he reacted with agitation, irritation, he snapped at me. And that for me was whoa, red flag. It was a red flag. I was like, there it is. When I caught him in like a busy mode where he was kind of like distracted by something else. He did not have time to jump into his like fake suit. And so therefore I pooped and respond to me in a way that is going to keep me in his life for longer than a month or two. At that stage, we could have been together for like 3 weeks or something. He could not maintain the fake thing that he was doing when he was now seriously engaged in some other activity. His faculties were all too consumed in this one deed to now wear the facade. And so I saw the red flag popping, and I had never up to that point in my relationship with my former boyfriend, the one that I was with for 5 years, no matter how many times I would like interrupt him in the middle of something, never would I ever have gotten a response from him like that, where he'd be like, hey, leave me alone. He would always be like, babe, please give me time. I need to do something. I'll be with you now. And for me to date somebody that is worse than what I come from, it was like, what are we doing here? Downward spiral, like exponential decline when it comes to quality of man. I was so disquieted by that. I didn't break up with him straight away, but ultimately I did, because that character, that mean streak, it kept on like pouncing at me. It kept on pouncing at me. One night he told me that, baby, umuhle ebusuku kuphela. The audacity. He told me that I'm only pretty at night. I was like, this is it. Literally, he looked into my face longingly, held my cheeks like that, and then told me, baby, umuhle kuphela. I was like, first and foremost, what am I doing in your apartment, ebusuku? Because I'm a Christian and these passions are wreaking havoc in my body. And secondly, how dare you insult my beauty? How dare you insult the beauty of a woman you've only been with for 2 months? We broke up that night. I broke up with him. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it for the life of him. But his mean streak came out. I'm trying to make it clear to you guys that, what do you call this? Again, in him, I saw a man that would diss my stretch marks during pregnancy, and I was like, I'm not about that business. Like, if you cannot be kind to me when I'm at the height of my glory, what then when I get old, I start to get fine lines, wrinkles, when your third kid makes me get loose skin on my belly? What's gonna happen on that day? I'm going to be mocked and teased and dissed for not looking 22 for the rest of my freaking life. We're not doing this. But this whole thing that I'm speaking about right now is me just trying to make it clear that character is uniform in the absence of redemption, in the absence of Christ coming in and making you a new creation. You are going to be the exact same person pretty much all your life in varying measure, maybe going up or down ever so slightly, a sliding scale, but certainly just kind of stay within the same parameters of personality. So a man that can walk right past 20 black girls and not greet them because he's got like a bone to pick with black women because he cannot stand how what he imagines to be arrogant they are, then this man is not going to treat the one black woman that he decides that I want to marry well. He's not going to treat her well. So this cheeky that ended up dating this like aloof oak that in the office was kind of like, you know, unkind to black girls generally, to black women in the office generally. But now there was like a girlfriend that he had that was working for another department. I never got to observe how he treated her because she was working in such a distant department that it was just impossible for me to come and reach any kind of sober conclusion concerning what's going on here. But years down the line, like I said, I wasn't as embittered and that as having gathered these many insights as I currently am. Like right now, I'm a woman whose fury hell hath no, because I'm scorned. Okay, so over and above just observational communications, I'm also kind of bitter. I'm upset, right? But I also spoke about all this bitterness and upsetness that dwells inside me. In spite of it, I should be getting treated better by men. One, why? Because they were created first. We're the rib. Secondly, they're the ones that are supposed to teach. Thirdly, they have got the sole responsibility, according to the Lord, to, you know, dress the wounds of a woman who has been tarnished by society for a myriad of reasons. Why? Because Christ has called them to do such a thing as that. Why? Because Christ himself was the example. He is the one that, you know, dealt well with Mary Magdalene. He is the one that adored women, prostitutes, that would like throw perfume at his feet like they were queens, like they'd never ever seen, you know, a naked man before. The way that he treated them like spotless virgins. He is the one that treated adulteresses with greater honor than the men in their town. So therefore, in spite of my bitterness, I ought not be getting treated like trash by any man at all that claims himself a child of the living God. If he claims himself to be a child of the living God, what he is basically purporting to be is a man that can love me the way that Christ loved the church, that albeit having all this bitterness, all these calluses in my heart because of the way that I've been treated, take it in a stride. Literally just take the blow of my trauma, of my PTSD, and nurse me back to health. That's what men are supposed to do. So women, this like thing that you do with settling for guys, because guys, it does not get any better. And you find yourself, like I said, on a sliding scale or an exponentially declining like slide going downward in terms of accepting men. Like, you literally, your current boyfriend is worse than your last one and your last one and your last one. You just keep going down, such that by the time you end up married, the dude he might as well be Ted Bundy, for crying out loud, or Moses to Sitole. No, you find yourself in that position because you don't give yourself to the one true. You don't give yourself to God. You don't give yourself to Jesus, that he might fix you, because you are currently broken. Yeah, you are broken, because after you have been classically conditioned like your Pavlov's dog to take just about anything, salivate after even there being no meat offered you, once you are just now suddenly just salivating at the ring of a metronome, salivating at the ring of a bell or the tick of a metronome, once you get to a point where you've been conditioned to salivate after any inkling of romance coming in your direction at all without ever gauging its virtue, you are a woman that has been broken. You have to be fixed. You know what you're like? You're like Peter in the Hunger Games. Peter, you know how Peter was conditioned to hate Katniss, and he was kind of violent, and it took so much to uproot the mind control that was done on Peter. That's what women are when they have, especially in the black community, because you know we are constantly just, it's like it's over for us before it even starts. We're called mean and bitter and all these things, and unmarriable and wada fish paste, and even when we are still these fresh, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed teenagers, it's like our future is already set before it even commences, and self-fulfilling prophecies and confirmation biases then make our lives exactly what it is that it is anticipated that black women's lives are going to end up being. So even though we don't want to end up the angry black woman or the baby mama drama lady who did not marry the baby daddy, even though we don't want to end up all these things, we unfortunately find ourselves now at 38, 39, 45, that thing. So when then you are Peter, having been conditioned to hate Katniss in the Hunger Games, you got to have somebody that's going to sit you out, ride you out. You know how, like how what Katniss did in the Hunger Games, you got to deal with somebody. You're only safe in the climate or in the presence of someone that understands you've been conditioned, that gets that this is going to take a lot of curing, a lot of uprooting, a lot of fixing whatever it is that was the germ that was injected into your bloodstream. And a man that cannot weigh patience over your embittered state as a black woman because the world treated you very typically like such a thing as that, in spite of having started out all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, having hope for everybody, and now you are all calloused and they're just throwing you away like you're just this like finished off thing. If you cannot meet with somebody that will take that and like just take the blows, like put a shock absorber around himself called the Holy Spirit to basically wean you off whatever under heaven it is that you were fed all these years, no business do you have being with such a man as that. Apparently it is an ideal that is unattainable, and so therefore those of us who expectantly wait on God to provide for us indeed exceedingly and abundantly above anything at all that we have ever thought to ask for, it's naive. Apparently it's naive to do that. And when then some people speak of you as one who is naive, you will be tempted to allow a deadbeat dude to come into your life. That is why there is such a bad case of gender-based violence in this country. It's women who hope that men that have always just had a mean streak hope that they somehow are going to change. No, they're not going to change. Okay, character is unchanging in the absence of transformation by the Holy Spirit. People just consistently stay the thing that they are. So that woman that I was working with, I wasn't working with her, she was in the building, however, that I was working in, that dated that dude that was as mean as he was. At the time, I thought that maybe there's something glorious coming off this woman that the rest of us just don't have, and he got it, and so he treats her better than the rest of us. Except now, my conclusion about what was going on over there was that that woman settled. Because there is no way that that dude could be that mean to all the other black women in the office and be so kind and doting over her. She took his reverse psychology, his stunt work. She took it. For her, it was, maybe this time it'll be different. And if it comes to the ring, and since I'm, 25, 26, maybe it'll end up in marriage type thing. Just so long to get married that this time around you're like sprinting down the aisle as opposed to walking, to a point of allowing the worst thing you've ever basically gazed your eye upon, landed it upon, to come into your life. My ex-boyfriend that I dated for 5 years was not the best man, as we know, the stories that I keep telling. He was actually quite horrendous. He put a whole bunch of witchcraft on me. He tried to manipulate me that way. He tried to come back into my life by that method. when I wouldn't get back together with him, he basically decided that he's going to utterly shatter and destroy the living daylights out of me. But he remains, to this day, the best guy I ever dated because of other character benefits that it came with him. Like I said, come throughout the baby with the bathwater. Therefore, for me to end up with a man that is worse than the man that has left me single for for over a decade, a man that has manipulated things in the spirit realm that I might never be loved by another man, since he was the last one that I was with, at least for a long enough amount of time for it to be respected as a relationship. Yeah, if at all I cannot do better than that, then I guess we are all screwed. If I cannot do better than my ex-boyfriend Waholoya, I dealt with like no man's business. We as a conglomerate of black women are indeed just most to be pitied. Because Haibani and ex is the best guy you've ever been with and can ever get. There is no God. There truly is no God. If there is no better than that. And well, since the fool says in his heart that there is no God, and I refuse to allot to myself the status of a fool, I therefore will rather say as a wise woman that there's gotta be better than my ex, and so I will settle not for less. And here it is, that I am being vehemently pursued by a man that is the scum of the earth because he thinks, don't nobody love you. I'll take you as you are, as if though I am as I am. Like the thing that he says, when you say I'll take you as you are, what exactly is that in your opinion? A woman that is battered, afflicted by the kind of man that you are, and you are the only one that's going to rock up out of the blue, opening up from out of nowhere, really, frankly, to love me in a climate where men like the one that I just described from my company, who was able to love one woman and yet hate the rest of them, since he rejected me the way that he did, since he and the plethora of them that were there rejected us the way that they did. Now at 38, 39, we gotta now take scums of the earth that are frankly abusive, have shown you flames in just 2 weeks of being together. Because it is what it is. Yeah, no. Black women, Pavlov's dogs. You have been made into Pavlov's dogs in the worst way, and so you find yourself married to men that are insufferable. You can't stand them. They beat you up if at all that's what they're into, or they just can't stop mocking and dissing the fact that you're getting old. Like, who does not get old? Or they keep on cheating and all that jazz. And my thing with that is, that's why you're so bitter. That's why you're so mean. That's why you're like Medusa, a Gorgon, a woman that is basically very insufferable to be in the presence of because you've been so shattered. And the reason why you've been made into little Gorgons or Medusas is because of the fact that you settled. You allowed yourself to be Pavlov's dogs. You salivated after meat that wasn't even there, even though it's rotten. If it's there, you took it. You ran with it because all you wanted to do was get married. Except, can we not wait? Patience is a virtue. Not only that, it is a fruit of the Holy Spirit, and it bears excellent fruit. Upon waiting on the Lord, you ultimately inherit so very much. The Lord, if you commit your ways to him, he makes your righteousness shine like the dawn, justice of your cause like the noonday sun. And if you commit your ways to the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. And you know what the desires of your heart are, but cognitive dissonance and dating the same guy over and over and over again has made you think that it is unfeasible. And to imagine it is unfeasible is to think that God is a liar. It is to call him a liar. It is to commit a blasphemous act, to anticipate that you can get down on your knees and pray to the God of the universe for better than what you have been subjugated to the tyranny of. Okay? And imagine that he can't do it. And I mean, it's written in God's word that is anything too hard for the Lord. Is it? Is anything too hard for the Lord? No, of course not. But there is the cycle of nonsense going on in the black community precisely because generation upon generation upon generation keep on making the same mistakes, and so therefore it appears as if though this is a monolith that is immovable. There is nothing that can be done for us all. So when you are still hopeful as a middle-aged black woman for better, you are looked at as, girl, you passed up so much when there was at least somebody that was happy to put a ring on it. Whoa, when you start to use the word at least, that's when you know you've got a problem. Okay? Gender-based violence, a man that has evidence that he could one day just never mind slap you with his own hand, but a pan from the stove, a man that has evidence that on date number 2, and you still walk down the aisle to him because it's what you look forward to. It's what you've wanted since you were a baby girl. No, it's not. It's not even what you've wanted since you were a kid. It's not. It is far removed, therefore a far cry from what you wanted as a kid, but it comes real close. It doesn't even come real close. It's that removed. It's that distant from what you asked for. But get what is this? The ring, get the picket fence. It's more or less. Are you serious? Like more or less? if more or less is going to put you on a gurney, if more or less is going to put you 6 feet under, or if more or less is going to make you have such self-confidence issues that you are going to end up being like a twerking 45-year-old woman so you can gain validation from the internet, if more or less is going to create out of you some menace that is insufferable in society and a typicality in the black community as an angry black woman, then by all means go on right ahead if you're happy to take that in your stride. Otherwise, waiting is the only thing that's going to rescue us as a people groups. I am observing Generation Z kids literally make the same mistakes that my millennial like fellow sisters are doing. And it's like, you cannot, my goodness, that is a definition of folly, eh? Like, the definition of foolishness is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. They are doing the same things and they look at us who are trying to counsel them differently, right? Having perhaps dodged bullets that many other women did not dodge, as bitter broads. We are being looked at as these bitter older women that don't quite understand how it's going on here. Except here lies the deal, okay? Many of y'all who be calling us bitter broads, right, who are upset and whatnot, who is praising you? Who right now is busy calling you the 21 or the 22-year-old woman a better thing? Who is busy looking at you as their option because Gabo is too bitter? It is the very kinds of men that have made us bitter broads. There is this woman on YouTube that has a whole channel dedicated to basically writing off women like me who give counsel like this because apparently we're bitter. And when I go down the comment section in this woman's videos, the people that come there and they throw their comments agreeing with her are middle-aged men that literally sing her praises, men of which have contributed or participated in the mutiny against women that she is speaking against. So you have this jerk that is 45 years old, 35, that has wreaked havoc in 10 women's lives in the past, and he has got a 25-year-old woman calling women like me bitter, and all he can do is sing that woman's praises and say that these older girls are bora because they've messed up their own lives. Except when you think about this dude, he's the one that's busy pursuing a 25-year-old girl at 35 or a 25-year-old girl at 38, because he, for the life of him, cannot handle or take in his stride a 32 or 33 or 34-year-old woman because they have figured them out. So it's almost as if though they are reinventing the wheel, doing the exact same thing again. There are lessons that ought to be learned here. You cannot just take, the Bible says that silver hairs, evidence a person's wisdom. You can't just disregard counsel from older women who have seen life and pretend as if though you can do whatever you want to do because men are different. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to, like, when I was younger, I imagined as well these women that were really rapping on, complaining, crying, like especially in my mom's circle, that they didn't quite get it right. They didn't do it right. They were not fascinating enough. They were not submissive enough. They were not loving enough. They were not womanly enough, feminine enough. But I know how to do it differently. Until the same mistreatment slaps you and you realize then that not even a peaceable and a quiet spirit, which is so precious in the sight of the Lord, converts or transforms these men. When a man or men have been so far gone that you can't even win them over with godliness, with virtue, which is what I try to do, on that day all you can do is suture yourself, hold on to Jesus until he makes them see, until he allows time to progress and makes these people to wake up and realize that we threw away and treated like rubbish, literally like the bubble gum underneath our feet, Proverbs 31 women that came and went, and now we've made them bitter. Like, we have taken both good girls and bad girls and put them in the same washing machine and laundered them when one half didn't even need any laundering, did not need any washing. We went on right ahead and blanket grabbed a whole bunch of women, put them in the same cesspool, clean and dirty, and treated them alike. And according to the scriptures, unequal scales are an abomination before Emmanuel. And that is an unequal scale. To treat the righteous like the wicked and the wicked like the righteous. And to just paint with the same brush a good girl with a bad woman. To put in the same conglomerate of rubbish great women and bad ones. It is an abomination to Emmanuel. And in the black community, there is a big fat chunky problem of all of us being written off by guys who from the age of 2021 literally put us on a trajectory to end up angry black women in the future. And that's what's happened to me. So what is the thing that makes me a cut above the rest? What makes it different? The fact that I, despite my bitterness, my anger, the volatility that I now am walking in terms of looking at black men as if though they are dung, that I held on to Jesus because I refused to settle. And that is the thing that people are trying to wrench out of my hands now, especially black women. Bang batla ka nka no re ke lo settle for the kinds of men that they are with, and I'm like, women, I already have a mild bitterness in me, it's clear. I don't want it to get to the nth degree that yours is at, because if I end up married to that guy, I will be finished off. I'm still salvageable, but if I end up married to whatever it is that many of y'all married, I will be finished off. And then people get mad at me for speaking like this. Let's move to the next part.